What if Arsenal wins the Champions League?
One more stride up Arsenal's stairway to heaven. Next stop, Budapest, and a crack at the ultimate prize in European football.
Doesn't matter which team you support, that would be the night you will remember forever. People said Arsenal weren't ready. People said PSG were too strong, because no one dared to admit just how dangerous Arsenal truly are.
No, Arsenal are probably the only team in the world that can actually stop that team playing the way they'll stop them playing the way they want to play. They can't stop Arsenal, Shaban.
This isn't just a Champions League final. This is the answer to the entire world after years of absence, to remind them who the Invincibles truly are.
Fresh legs of Calafiore, and that was whipped in beautifully and finished off by Noni Madueke.
White in support, pulls it right across Gyökeres! Well, he couldn't miss from that range, but that feels like a big moment.
More than 20 years of waiting, the hunger has reached its peak. Heaven for the Gunners is now only 90 minutes away.
Arsenal are in the Champions League final, beating Atletico Madrid 1-0 at the Emirates, 2-1 on aggregate. Huge for them, their first Champions League final for 20 years. And Arsenal sit on the edge of the biggest season in their history. They've got a 90-minute shot at winning the Champions League, Premier League and Champions League in one season. Their best season in Arsenal's history. It might not be the best football in Arsenal's history.
May 30th, 2026. Budapest, Hungary. The prestigious Silver Champions League trophy is there. Destiny is waiting to call Arsenal's name. Gunners, are you ready to return to the position of a ruler once again?
Arsenal are in the Champions League final! Yeah! Come on! Come on! Oh, never in doubt, never in doubt.
It's amazing, doesn't it? I can't stop smiling. Just seeing the Emirates. We fought like an Arsenal team.
Yes.
You're like, oh, well, one team, PSG's been great, but Arsenal will be there. They'll be there in the final and they'll be ready to play.
Before talking about the present, you need to understand where Arsenal came from to get here. Because if you don't understand that journey, you will never truly feel the weight of the Budapest moment. Let's go back to 2004 when Arsenal were an empire. The Invincibles, undefeated for an entire Premier League season, 38 matches, not a single defeat.
Perez again. The game warming up.
Thierry Henry ran like the wind, Patrick Vieira dominated the midfield, and Arsene Wenger stood on the touchline with the smile of a man who knew he was witnessing history. That was Arsenal. The entire world looked up to, not because they won, but because the way they won made people unable to look away.
And then when you used to arrive, people were walking on the street, out on the road, waiting for us to arrive, play the game, enjoy themselves. More often than not, we used to win here. We lost some games, to be fair, but more often than not, we used to win.
And then suddenly, everything passed by. That empire began to collapse, not through a dramatic explosion, but through the slow, painful erosion that hurts the most in football. The stars left. Investment money dried up as the Emirates Stadium was built. Manchester City rose with endless money, Chelsea entered the game, and Arsenal, the club that once ruled England, slowly became a name people mentioned with pity more than respect. 22 years without a Premier League, no Champions League, nothing at all. Fans started to feel embarrassed talking about ambition, because every time they spoke, disappointment came crashing down like a slap.
We're all having a party, we're all having a party, we're all having a party, we're all
The club that once ruled England became the lucky top 4 team. Fans felt embarrassed mentioning ambition because every time they did, disappointment followed. That was Arsenal across 2 decades of suffering, a great name trapped in the shadow of its own history. That was the context when Mikel Arteta arrived in December 2019, and people laughed. a former midfielder who had never been a head coach, taking one of the hardest jobs in Europe at a club that had completely lost its direction. In his first season, Arsenal finished 8th, their worst result in decades.
All season, we were good enough to beat the top 6, as we've seen all season. Today was just a game where I don't know what happened to them. No energy. I stuck up all season, but today he's been awful and quite awful all season.
The pressure to sack him appeared early. On social media, even the club's own fans were calling for the board to make a decision. But Mikel Arteta refused to break. Not because he was stubborn, but because he saw clearly what others couldn't see. Arsenal didn't need a better manager. They needed to be rebuilt from the roots. He started doing that in a way very few people would dare to, removing players who were toxic to the team culture, no matter how talented they were. Recruiting players who not only had skill, but also the right mentality, willing to sacrifice their ego for the collective, building a clear philosophy and staying committed to it through every season, every match, every smallest decision inside the dressing room. And more importantly than anything else, he built a roadmap, not baseless expectations, but a roadmap with specific goals, step by step, from not qualifying for Europe to the Europa League, then the Champions League quarterfinals, then the semi-finals, and now here they are, the final. After 20 years.
Leandro Trossard, and tapped in by Bukayo Saka. Arsenal have lift-off in the semi-finals.
The moment the final whistle blew in that second-leg semi-final match was not just a victory, it was the result compressed from 5 years of rebuilding, from thousands of training hours, from nights Arteta sat analysing video until 2 a.m, from difficult conversations inside the dressing room that no one outside ever knew about, and from the moment Saka scored that goal to the final in Budapest. Arsenal knew they were ready, and, more importantly, they believed it.
Look, it's outstanding. You know, the club did wait for that for a very long time, as we know. Mikel Arteta, Gyökeres was immense tonight. Bukayo Saka, what he had to endure to play, you guys don't know. He did everything to be able to be on that field and on the field also at the weekend. Everybody, really, it's been a journey. Let's enjoy it. But obviously, if you love Arsenal, but then let's concentrate on now finishing the league well, and then the final of the Champions League. I'm going to have my guys in Budapest.
But if you only rely on emotion, it still isn't enough. Let the numbers speak, because numbers have no emotion and they do not lie. Arsenal are the only team in Champions League history to win all 8 group stage matches. 8 matches, no losses, no draws, winning every single one. The second place team in the group finished 4 points behind them. To show you the level of that dominance, teams like Real Madrid or Bayern Munich, the familiar giants of the Champions League, didn't even achieve this during their greatest seasons. And what about the defence? The centre-back pairing of William Saliba and Gabriel Magalhaes have not conceded from open play in the Champions League for more than 2 consecutive years. 2 years, not 2 matches, not 2 months. 2 years.
Arsenal fans, just tell us how proud you feel tonight.
I cried. I'm so proud. Listen, I'm 28. So for me to see my team do what we did today, big deal. And listen, I don't know what's going to happen in the future, but I'm just proud of my team right now. The tattoo's pending. I can't wait to get a tattoo for Arsenal if we win, but I'm so happy.
And are they going to win? Whether it's PSG, Bayern Munich, do you care?
Listen, if you're a real Arsenal fan, you believe they'll win. It's simple as that. I believe.
And no fear of Harry Kane coming back to haunt you?
I don't care. He's an Arsenal fan. He will slip up for us. He will slip up for us. I don't care. I do not care.
Saliba will pocket Harry Kane. I'm telling you this now. I don't care if Harry Kane goes to the 18-yard box to try and get the ball. Saliba will be there. He will be. The Rolls Royce will be there. If Harry Kane is class, Saliba's the teacher, mate.
PSG know that. Real Madrid know it. Bayern Munich know it. And all of them still couldn't find a solution. And in the Premier League right now, Arsenal are leading with 76 points after 35 matches, 5 points ahead of Manchester City in a title race. The entire country is holding its breath, watching every round. After 22 years of drought, they are here, right here. Arsenal in 2026 are not a team that is building. They are a team that has already finished building, already been tested, and is now operating at the absolute highest level of efficiency.
But I think what we've seen from Arsenal this season, and certainly albeit the Sunderland game, where they drop points, was a bit of an anomaly for them, particularly from a leading position, was the opposite of what Liverpool have, and I know we're going to get to them. They're at the moment, their confidence is getting sapped, and Arsenal are just building momentum. And listen, they're the real deal.
Those numbers did not appear from nowhere. They are the product of a clear and consistent philosophy that Arteta has built over many years. This is not the Arsenal of gifted individuals playing beautiful football before collapsing when the pressure reaches its peak. This is a living system. Every player has a clearly defined role, every action has a specific tactical purpose, and every decision in a match is made based on a scenario carefully prepared in advance. They press with high intensity when there is space to exploit. They build up slowly and intelligently through the lines when opponents sit deep. When facing Europe's biggest teams, they know exactly when to absorb pressure, when to launch lightning-fast counterattacks, and when to slow the tempo to preserve energy for decisive moments. If I had to summarise Arsenal this year in one sentence, I would say this: they don't kill you with technique. They kill you with discipline. That discipline is specifically shown through the weapons Arteta will bring to Budapest, and each of those weapons is not just good. They create tactical problems with no simple solution for the opponent. The first weapon is David Raya, and this is something most casual football viewers do not notice enough. Raya is not just a good goalkeeper in the traditional sense. He is a free midfielder inside the goal. His top-tier ball distribution with his feet allows Arsenal to begin their entire build-up process from the back without fear of being trapped by a pressing system and losing the ball in dangerous areas. When opponents want to press high to cut off Arsenal's build-up, Raya always finds an escape route with precise passes through the pressure. What does that mean? It means Arsenal are practically playing with 12 men. They have an extra player involved in the build-up phase without sacrificing any position on the pitch. 9 clean sheets in 13 Champions League matches and 17 clean sheets in the Premier League this season earned him 2 Golden Gloves across these 2 prestigious competitions, showing his ability to control matches from the goalkeeper position.
That's a long way. Ryan has to make the save. Chiquinho. I think David Raya going to touch. He did. It's a corner.
Directly connected with Raya in that control process is Declan Rice, the true brain of the entire team. Rice plays deep in the centre, attracts pressure, distributes the ball intelligently, and creates the rhythm for the whole side. But what makes Rice more dangerous than many people realise is his ability to suddenly burst straight into the penalty box at the most unexpected moments. Runs that opposing defences cannot react to in time because they are too focused on other threats. Opponents are forced to assign at least one, often 2 players to mark Rice constantly throughout the match, and that exact thing, the attention Rice pulls toward himself, is what opens up space for the other weapons to operate.
And I think he's had an unbelievable year. I've got to say, we talk about Ballon d'Or one side, but he's had an unbelievable year. He's this hybrid of just quality, reading the game. When his team is in danger and they're exposed and there's a transition counter-attack, he's the one who reads the game and almost with his pace and his tackling gets them out of a lot of trouble. It's why they're top of the league. He has a big impact on why Arsenal are top of the league and top of the Champions League.
Among them, the most important is Bukayo Saka. If you ask me the one player PSG should fear the most, my answer is not Gyökeres, not Martinelli. It is Saka. Because no team on this planet has found a way to contain Saka on the right wing without creating deadly space somewhere else. Double mark him with a defender and a midfielder, then Rice and Gyökeres are completely free in the centre and the left flank. Give him space and leave only one defender against him, and he will tear apart the right side in less than 3 seconds. You just saw that in the semi-final against Atletico Madrid, when the entire Metropolitano was holding its breath, when the pressure had reached its peak, Saka received the ball and scored. That was not the random reaction of a naturally gifted talent. That was instinct forged through thousands of training hours and hundreds of similar high-pressure moments. And it never fails when Arsenal need it most.
He's our main guy, he's our best player. I think people have overlooked it for quite a while that the best player in the team has been out for quite a while. And he came back, we've seen little bits of him coming back, and I've been looking at him thinking to myself, how good would it be to get this guy firing between now and the end of the season, because he's good enough to lead us to a title or to a Champions League title. And it is so important that we got him back. And you saw that today. Absolute class, this guy.
Behind all those attacking weapons lies the true foundation of the team: William Saliba and Gabriel. These two are not just the best defensive pairing in the Champions League this season, they are the fundamental reason Arsenal can apply any tactical system without fearing punishment when losing possession. Elite game reading, split-second anticipation, world-class marking. With Saliba and Gabriel behind them, Arteta can ask the rest of the team to attack more aggressively, press higher, because he knows that if mistakes happen, someone will deal with them. And do not forget the secret weapon that not enough people talk about: set pieces. Arsenal lead the Premier League in goals from set pieces this season against PSG, a team that presses extremely high and constantly commits fouls in the opponent's half. Every free kick, every corner is a deadly opportunity handed directly to Arsenal without needing to build anything at all. However, the problem waiting for Arsenal on the other side is far from simple. Luis Enrique's PSG are certainly a difficult puzzle for Mikel Arteta's squad. They are the reigning Champions League holders, having just produced one of the greatest semi-final matches in Champions League history, showing their mentality by defeating Bayern Munich right at Allianz Arena to reach Budapest. Kvaratskhelia, a player operating on a different level compared to the rest of world football right now. One moment of genius from him, one creative decision in a split second, can completely change the entire direction of a match in a way no one can fully predict or stop. That is the harsh truth about players at that level. They always possess the ability to do what nobody expects. Alongside Kvaratskhelia in attack is the 2025 Ballon d'Or winner Ousmane Dembélé. With relentless movement, he can appear on the right wing, left wing, and through the centre. He's everywhere on the field. This will be an extreme challenge for Arsenal's two centre-backs against a player full of energy and currently at the peak of his form. In addition, PSG also possess a midfield considered among the best in the world with Vitinha and João Neves. The two Portuguese players are the soul of this team with their ability to circulate the ball and create unpredictable moments of brilliance. Besides that, PSG are trying to defend their Champions League title, something only Real Madrid have achieved in the modern era of the competition. That pressure does not break PSG. If anything, it only makes them more focused and disciplined than ever under Luis Enrique, who completely transformed the club's culture from a collection of individual stars into a collective with iron discipline.
I know the night before the game in Budapest, you will be obviously very focused with your game, but at CBS, we have a party the night before the game, so if you want to invite the president and if he wants to come to the party, I understand. Listen, if you want to relax yourself,
of course.
You can come.
I am not going there, but you can invite Meekelle Arteta. I think he deserves to go the day before with you.
There is another risk we also cannot underestimate. This is only the second Champions League final in Arsenal's entire history. The first was in 2006, and they lost to Barcelona. The experience of closing the deal, knowing how to stay composed in the final minutes of a final when everything becomes most chaotic, is something you only gain by having been there before. Arsenal have never been there. That is a real risk, not something I can repeat over and over until it disappears.
It's what it is. We knew the level of the opposition that we had to face, either way, Bayern Munich or PSG. We know the quality that they have, and that's it. But obviously, we are as well very confident that when we get to that moment, we're going to deliver what we need to do. But I'm assuming that criticism is positive and negative, yeah? I'm assuming. And when we talk about criticism, it's positive and negative, and that's what makes you better. I mean, that's when you want to set higher standards and performance levels that can give you the chance to compete for the two most prestigious competitions probably in Europe. You have to be prepared for that because you know the challenge, difficulty of it, and it does make you better. That's for certain.
PSG have the better squad on paper. PSGs have more experience. PSG are the clear favourites, and anyone saying otherwise is lying to you or lying to themselves. All of those things are true. But I still believe Arsenal can win, not because they are stronger individually, not because of being a fan of anyone, but because Throughout this entire season, Arteta has built a team that knows exactly who they are, knows exactly what they want, and most importantly, never loses itself no matter how the match unfolds. In football, a team without fear that fully understands its identity and has a system strong enough to endure every pressure, that team always has a chance. Always. Champions League history is full of finals where the underdog won through discipline and belief in their system. And if Arsenal win in Budapest, it will be the greatest moment in this club's history, not equal to the Invincibles, but bigger, because the Invincibles was the story of a perfect season within a domestic competition. But this would be the story of a team rising from 20 years of darkness, overcoming the strongest enemies in Europe, and taking the one thing the entire world said they did not deserve to have. That is the kind of story history writes in gold ink. May 2026, Budapest, Puskás Arena, and history, as it always has been, is written only once. Arsenal. Do not let this opportunity slip away. Arsenal will win the Premier League. Arsenal will win the Champions League.
History makers! Arsenal are back in a Champions League final! And in truth, it was never in doubt from the very first minute here. And the Gunners are heading to Budapest, and they sit now just 90 minutes away from their first ever Champions League title.
And when they do, after 21 years of waiting, after 0 European titles in 138 years of history, Arsenal will never look the same again.
Arsenal can taste it more than they've ever tasted it.
If Arsenal win this, the arguments that I'm going to put players in are going to be egregious. We're going to put Meekelle Arteta in the greatest ever manager arguments. We're going to put William Saliba in the best ever centre back argument.
Leading the Premier League, beating Leverkusen, beating Sporting, beating Atletico Madrid, they now stand on the doorstep of the Champions League final, facing PSG.
Oh my God! Okay, it's happening. Everybody stay calm. What's the procedure, everyone? What's the procedure? Stay calm.
A Premier League and Champions League double. That is the territory of giants. Manchester United in 1999 and Manchester City in 2023. Now, Arsenal are ready to carve their name into the Temple of Legends.
These boys, these groups of players, Saliba, Gabriel, Declan Rice, Nkappi, Saka, Madueke, all these other guys, they're too good to not win a trophy. They're too good to not win a trophy. We're going to bring something home. We're going to bring this good vein of form into the Premier League. We're going to win the Premier League, and hopefully we take this Champions League home.
As we've said in the last few weeks, they're on the verge of something really truly special and historic for that football club.
If they could get this done, it would be remarkable. It'd be an unbelievable achievement. Yeah. And it's in their grasp. What have they got? 3 more games to do it. They've just got to win 3 more games.
Listen, this is not a video made to hype Arsenal. They do not need that. The table already speaks for itself. This is an analysis, an argument, a verdict. 3 questions, 3 answers. Straightforward, no sugarcoating. Stay with me, you'll have the answer at the end of the video.
Embrace it, battle for it, and let's see at the end, like I always say, what's gonna happen.
Before we start dreaming, let's face reality head on. How realistic actually is this? Because there is a massive gap between an emotional tweet saying Arsenal are winning it and a cold, hard argument built on statistics, tactics, and squad structure. We are here for the second one. 2 points. Just 3 games left. That is all that remains. Arsenal only need 2 wins, or 1 win and 1 slip-up from Man City, to bring the Premier League trophy back home after 21 long years. Think about that for a second. The last time Arsenal were champions, Beyoncé had just released Crazy in Love. Finding Nemo was still in cinemas. And half of the current Arsenal squad, they were probably still wearing diapers. In the Champions League, things are becoming insane. 16 matches, 11 wins, 3 draws, unbeaten. This run has been a statement of intent, from a perfect group stage campaign to crushing Leverkusen, Sporting and Atletico Madrid in the knockout rounds. And now, Arsenal stand on the doorstep of history. PSG, Budapest, May 30th, 2026. This is no longer a scenario on paper, it is a reality counting down. Just 15 days remain until the final battle. Arsenal versus PSG. A new chapter is about to be written.
Champions League final. Arsenal versus Paris Saint-Germain in Budapest 2026. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be historic. The entirety of London is going to shut down for this clash of the Titans. It is magnificent. It really is going to be a massive spectacle. People are saying that Arsenal are not capable of going toe-to-toe with this Paris Saint-Germain team. They're saying that it's a mismatch both on the pitch, in the stands, and in the dugout. But that doesn't mean that Arsenal can't nullify them. That doesn't mean that Arsenal cannot stop them. That doesn't mean that it's impossible for Arsenal. Arsenal. It is Arsenal who are the unbeaten team in the Champions League this year, not Paris Saint-Germain. It is Arteta who has conceded fewer goals on a per-game basis than any other manager in the Champions League ever. They're going there to win. They're going there to be the victors. And Arsenal fans aren't going there to be entertained. They will find their entertainment in winning.
Look at the monumental double Arsenal are chasing. In the modern era of English football, only Manchester United 1999 and Manchester City 2023 have ever achieved a feat like this.
This could be greatness bestowed upon Arsenal, and these are the only teams in English football history that have ever won the top division and the European Cup in the same season. Liverpool twice, 70s and 80s. Manchester United, of course, did it as part of that incredible treble Roy was part of, and again in 7-8, and City just 3 years ago.
These are not merely trophies, they are milestones that mark the birth of a dynasty. A complete shift of power in the football world. So what happens after winning trophies like these? To answer that question, you first need to understand the man behind the wheel. And that man is Mikel Arteta. I want to talk about Mikel Arteta. Think back to December 2019. When he took over, Arsenal were collapsing in 8th place in the Premier League after sacking Unai Emery. The day Arteta was appointed, social media was flooded with mockery and doubt. People laughed at him as an inexperienced former player, an apprentice assistant living under Pep Guardiola's shadow. Amid that ruthless wave of scepticism and prejudice, Arteta's journey officially began.
I would have thought that Vieira would have been picked because I think he has a better experience as a coach, as a top coach.
For obvious reasons, the jury's still out because this is his first managerial job, and as much as he may have learned under Pep Guardiola, it's very different when you're the man in charge and you have to get those messages across. All that being said, it then comes down to how the Arsenal board back him and support him in what he's trying to do. This board has left me, even as a neutral, wanting in terms of their approach and backing managers. So we see how they support Arteta in going forward. Otherwise, it's just all in vain.
Now fast forward to reality. Just look at these numbers. This success is not luck. This is precision engineering. It is steady progression, a squad meticulously built through intelligent recruitment. Look at Declan Rice from West Ham. £105 million was once considered outrageously expensive, but now it looks like an absolute bargain. Or William Saliba, a £27 million signing from Saint Etienne, who has now developed into one of the best centre-backs in the world. Or Martin Odegaard, a player once lost inside Real Madrid's Galacticos 2.0 project, who is now the captain and an irreplaceable piece of Arsenal's system.
I look at this as 6 years with Mikel Arteta. This guy has taken a team from the wilderness, laughing stocks in the Prem, to getting up there, getting in the title race, getting themselves back in the Champions League for the first time in 7 years, losing the quarterfinals the first go-around, losing the semifinals the second go-around, and in his third attempt in the Champions League, in a final. We talk a lot about Mikel Arteta here, right? And about the pressure he faces and finally getting over the hump, and he needs to get it done this year. But I think sometimes you have to take a step back and realize that this rebuild that he has overseen, whether he wins it all or doesn't, he needs to, but even if he doesn't, it's a pretty impressive rebuild, man. It is, and he's done it in a way where he hasn't blown a crazy amount of money like maybe some competitors have. He hasn't done it in shady ways. He's done it the ethical way. This is an ethical rebuild, and now they're on the verge of, like you said, going from the wilderness to 6 years later, Premier and Champions League winner.
And finally, let's talk about that special name, Bukayo Saka.
Saka. Bukayo Saka! Odegaard, sweet touch. Martinelli. Right. Zinchenko, Bukayo Saka twisting and firing forcibly into the roof.
He does not just play football, he tortures defences. Saka's game is a ruthless blend of explosive right-wing dribbling and those trademark left-footed hurlers. When a player dominates both of football's most brutal stages at just 24 years old, you are no longer watching great player. You are witnessing the birth of a legacy. So what happens if this version of Arsenal, led by Arteta with a core of Saka, Rice, Odegaard and Saliba, conquers everything this season? Football history has 3 answers to that question, and unfortunately, not all of them are good news. When a club wins both the Premier League and the Champions League, history usually points toward 3 scenarios: domination, spark, or one-time miracle. Let's break down each part.
Manchester City, you gave me love, you gave me trust, you gave me everything that a coach has imagined. And here I am, winning you the Champions League in the most beautiful way possible. We did it. We won the treble.
The first scenario is the story of domination. That was Manchester City after their historic treble in 2022-23. Instead of becoming satisfied, they turned the peak of success into a launch pad for even greater dominance. Holland stayed, Guardiola extended his contract, and the entire structure above the squad, from recruitment to operations, had already been programmed to keep winning. Could Arsenal become a dominant force like that? The answer is absolutely yes, because their foundations are just as strong. Arsenal possess enormous commercial power through the Emirates, powerful financial backing from the Kroenke family, and most importantly, Mikel Arteta, a manager who has proven he can make the club improve sustainably year after year, not simply explode for one magical season.
It's good. I mean, look, what I would say is that this league, at this moment in time, has only really got one consistently good side every single week, and that's Arsenal, who are playing at the level of... They're not necessarily miles better than last year, but they're repeating their levels of consistency. And that's all they're going to have to do this year to win the league. They're very reliable, you can trust them. The way in which they defend is fantastic. They're all around each other, they don't concede goals, they've got a threat up front in multiple areas. They've not got a sensational centre forward, but they've got a battering ram up there who's honest as a day is long, and that I think can work for.
And here is the golden key that very few people talk about: age advantage. Saka, Saliba, Rice, Odegaard, this core group is only just entering the prime years of their careers. They are not declining, they are accelerating upward. So if Arsenal win the double this season, it absolutely will not be the end of a cycle. It will be the opening shot of an era. Now let's move to the second scenario, the story of the spark.
He's hit the post! And Chelsea will have a kick. By Didier Drogba. Yeah! It's the greatest night in Chelsea's history. Champions of Europe at last. Here we go. It is Chelsea's European Cup at last. It's Chelsea history. Nothing like the first time.
Because the reality is this: not every double creates a dynasty. Sometimes the peak is actually the beginning of the collapse. Look at Chelsea in 2012. They won the Champions League with Roberto Di Matteo, only for him to be sacked 11 months later, triggering another chaotic cycle of managerial changes. Or Leicester City in 2016, the most unbelievable fairy tale in Premier League history. One season later, they had fallen back into mid-table. Ranieri lost his job, and that golden generation never touched greatness again. So what is Arsenal's biggest risk in this scenario? One word: Arteta. If Arsenal conquer both the Premier League and the Champions League, Mikel Arteta immediately becomes the most desirable manager on the planet. Barcelona, Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, PSG. Any giant club searching for a master architect to rebuild their empire will come knocking, and they will knock hard. And what about the stars on the pitch? Win the double and suddenly Saka is on Real Madrid's radar, while Saliba receives calls from Barcelona. The transfer market giants do not care about your winning streak. They only care about stealing your greatest assets. That is the spark scenario, the brightest moment of glory becoming the trigger that slowly tears the squad apart. But the good news is that Arsenal have already built a structure strong enough to resist that storm. Their wage structure is extremely competitive. Arteta is fully committed to the project, and there is one reality people forget. Arsenal under Arteta have never bent because of money. Saka stayed while the whole world chased him. Saliba chose to sign a new contract. Declan Rice joined Emirates even knowing he was turning down Manchester City. Now we arrive at the final scenario, the one-time moment. And finally, there is a brutal possibility that no Arsenal fan wants to say out loud. What if this is already the ceiling? What if this is the brightest season they will ever have, before the decline begins? I am not being cynical. I am simply facing reality. Arsenal have been close to this point before. They have led the league before. They have played like an unstoppable force before. They have had Champions League nights that made everyone believe their time has finally come. But then, all it takes is one poor run of form, one catastrophic injury, or one defeat in a defining clash. And suddenly everything slips away again. Just look at the legendary Invincibles generation itself. The unbeaten 2003-04 season, the greatest achievement in Premier League history. Yet, even that iconic team never managed to lift the Champions League trophy.
Not this year. 2006 is the year that Barcelona returned to the summit of European football. The favourites have won the final. Arsenal's future may be bright, but Barcelona are the team of the present, and 14 years on from their one and only European Cup success, are back on top of European football, and they may just take some shifting.
That is how cruel and humbling football can be. You can become the greatest unbeaten domestic side ever and still fall short on Europe's biggest stage. Which is why the only real answer for Arsenal to avoid this brutal scenario comes down to one thing: depth. Arsenal's spine, from David Raya to the defensive wall of Saliba and Gabriel to the midfield partnership of Rice and Odegaard, is backed up by quality rotational options like Ben White and Kai Havertz. That depth, combined with a strong rotation between Martinelli and Trossard on the left flank, gives Mikel Arteta the confidence to rotate his squad between the Premier League and the Champions League without disrupting the entire system. However, Arsenal's grand ambitions still carry two major weak points: Bukayo Saka's right flank and the striker position. Their over-reliance on Saka turns that roll into the biggest risk within the system, because if the English star becomes exhausted or injured, Arsenal simply do not possess an equivalent replacement. Add to that the alarming lack of depth at centre-forward and right back, and Arsenal's entire rise could easily collapse if an injury crisis suddenly hits.
When you look at your team and your squad, and you will look around, and sometimes in the last few years you've looked at your team and you're going, yeah, the team in Odegaard was the main man and Saka. There was no backup plan. There was always, well, if these lads don't turn up, we're in trouble. Yeah. But now you're looking at Arsenal going, even if they're not at the very best, obviously they can get over the line with set pieces. But what we saw today, the dream scenario for them, when they're up against it and one or two injuries, and Rice, maybe the manager will say, maybe I got that wrong. It's the players coming off the bench. We had it United. It's not what you're starting 11. It never has been. But they didn't have that strength and depth. Their bench today.
That is not criticism. It is simply brutal reality of elite football. Every great dynasty has always needed one pillar capable of carrying the weight of the kingdom. Manchester City had Kevin De Bruyne, Real Madrid have Jude Bellingham, and for Arsenal right now, that pillar is Bukayo Saka. But let's pretend everything goes perfectly. Saka stays fully fit. Arsenal defeat PSG in the Champions League final and bring both of the biggest trophies back to the Emirates. When that moment happens, how much will the balance of power change, not just for Arsenal, but for the entire landscape of world football? Now, take a step back and look at the bigger picture, a much bigger picture, because if Arsenal truly conquer both the Premier League and the Champions League in the 2025-26 season, this story will no longer be confined to the Emirates. That achievement would tear down and rebuild the entire power structure of European football. And here is a truth that still is not fully appreciated: Arsenal's global influence, A Champions League night at the Emirates is already one of the most electric atmospheres in football. But imagine Arsenal officially becoming kings of Europe. More than 200 million followers across social media exploding in celebration. Commercial partnerships across 4 continents elevated to an entirely new level. The Champions League trophy does not just fill the cabinet. It unlocks the highest tier of revenue printing pre-season tours, and above all, the ultimate privilege in the transfer market. Suddenly, Arsenal can look superstars like Kylian Mbappe, Jamal Musiala or Lamine Yamal directly in the eye and say, "We are the champions of Europe. Come here." That scouting and recruitment status is the true leverage of power, more valuable than any transfer budget in world football.
I expect Arsenal to win the league. I think they've got the best team, I think they've got the best squad. But I think if you're a Manchester City fan, and what you've seen over the last few years and what they've done sort of catching them, I think they'll all be rubbing their hands with glee about how tight it is with Arsenal now.
When even the doubters begin to hesitate and believe, that is when you know a genuine earthquake is coming. And if that miracle truly happens, if Arsenal conquer both of football's greatest prizes, then there is still one final question left to ask. A question that perhaps every Arsenal fan right now is secretly trying to avoid. If Arsenal win both the Premier League and the Champions League this season, are they the greatest Arsenal side of all time? Greater even than the Invincibles?
This team have got the capability of, if they can win it, they'll be invincible in the Champions League. If they can win that and win the Premier League, and that team, the Invincible team, as great as they were with their individuals, this team will surpass them with what they've done, because they'll have done something that that team hasn't done, and they've got to get a lot of credit for that, for what they've been through in the journey to get to here with the manager. So if they can finish it off, which I'm praying that they can, of course they have to go down as the best team in Arsenal's history.
The Invincibles will forever remain immortal legends. Going through a 38-game Premier League season, unbeaten, that record may never be broken. Arsene Wenger built a team that challenged the limits of football itself and conquered England in a way nobody else ever has. But this current Arsenal team, if they complete this double, they will conquer Europe too. Something the Invincibles never achieved. They are not better than the Invincibles, they are simply different. 2 different peaks on the same great mountain. And you know what? After 21 long years of painful runner-up finishes and broken hearts, Arsenal fans deserve to have both peaks. One era that proved English football could be played to perfection, and another era that proved Arsenal could dominate the world. And that is our answer. Arsenal winning both the Premier League and the Champions League. This is no longer some impossible fantasy. It is a scenario taking shape right in front of our eyes. The statistics support it. The squad believes in it. The manager is ready for it. But football has never cared about statistics. Football is 90 minutes of chaos wrapped inside the beautiful lie that form always decides everything. Even so, there is one thing I can say with certainty. For the first time in 2 decades, Arsenal fans no longer need to pray that their team might be good enough. The Premier League table proves they are good enough. The Champions League proves they are reaching levels that belong in history. And if Mikel Arteta truly leads this team all the way to the finish line, then we will not simply be talking about a great Arsenal season. We will be witnessing the opening shot of a new era. If you enjoy our video, don't forget to hit like to help this video reach to other football lovers, and hit the subscribe button to follow for more interesting videos about football stories. See you in the next video.